Imeall anocht. Sláinte intine an stáitse. Gar scéalaocht le heiligh ní An alien I gasláán an leasa bhór. Agus ceol le Dylan Nochtain an taliontóir méid áirithe de haon gomininic, ach sa séithir istéanaí le Dylan nocht sinna gnéithe go léir a bhaine lena chláinte intine chun aird a phobal a haingtar an ábharson. Leabhar ar dúirscóir Fergal McCarthy leis an aisteoir agus ceoltóir Dylan faoin séithir ilgnéithe nuaige, record.
You gave me a prescription from a book. You told me to keep my chin up without a thought of making sense.
So Dylan you've made the most extraordinary new show that premiered at Cork Midsummer.
That's right, yeah.
It's about to open at Dublin Theatre Festival in October.
2nd till the 7th of October.
Called Record?
Called Record.
Tell me about it, please.
Essentially, Record is more than a show. It's a project which has a few various different parts. The first part is an album which I released in May, which is an album of original tracks dealing with my own personal experience of mental health problems, my own treatment, diagnosis, or misdiagnosis, as I would argue. And the show is basically it's an alternative opera which uses the songs as a portal into looking at the whole area of mental health in hopefully a new way.
Dylan patient 172064. 2009, October. Dear Doctor on Call, grateful if you could send an urgent appointment to the above, who has been feeling low for the past few months. Was diagnosed with bipolar in 2004.
So you were on medication for several years?
Yeah,
and you decided...
at various different periods I've been on various different medications at different times and with a range of quite damaging side effects.
I can't afford to cry more tears with him. I've lost reservoirs of them.
But you've come to the conclusion yourself over time that psychology is a lot more valid than using a psychiatrist.
What I have come to the conclusion really is that I would be very reluctant to deal with anybody's highly individual issues with a generalized solution. And I think often psychiatry, and especially how medications are used, is a very blunt instrument to deal with an extremely complex and individual process which an individual might be going through.
I don't think we can treat the mind just as another organ of the body. I think it's fundamentally flawed. That is what we call the medical model, the assumption that you can treat mental problems in the same way that you treat problems arising from a particular organ in the body.
And you're going to have a series of talks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's very much part of the project. There's the album, the performance, and a series of talks. So as we did in Cork, I'm inviting progressive thinkers, survivors of the psychiatric services, to debate, to talk, to really open up the theatre space during the day as a place of hopefully of investigation, of learning, of debate.
I've seen every shrink there is to see. Tried every pill and recipe for a new psychology.
One thing I'd argue in the show is that I would question the existence of mental illness at all.
Okay.
And I think that really what I'm seeing more and more is that these are problems that are experienced by everybody to one extent or another at different times for different reasons, very complex reasons, and are different in every case. And we talk a lot about stigma in mental health and breaking down stigma, and for me, the classification of people into bipolars and schizophrenics and all of these labels.
Labels are incredibly
And
dangerous.
yes, and in my opinion, it's the label which compounds and creates the stigma. People must be assisted and given the space to really define their own experience in the terms that make sense to them, rather than having to always have classifications and labels imposed on them.
Private and confidential. Dear Mr. Ty, I refer to the request which you made under the Freedom of Information Act 1997 for access to records held by this agency, and apologies for the delay. A final decision was made on your request by me as decision maker on the 6th of April 2011.
I was expecting it to be quite a heavy piece, and it's not at all. You know, it's very, very light and fun. You know, it's a learning curve, but then also very entertaining.
Yeah. Essential is I'm making a work of art, so it's, you know, it's not a work of journalism. No. So, you know, for me, it has to work on the level of just the artistic idea. For me, that was the most important thing. It was really clear I didn't want to make a depressing show about depression. There has to be a message of hope, you know, and I think that's often what is what people need when they are in that situation, is really a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is clear paths for recovery.
Made to feel an imbecile with no insight into how I feel.
There's been quite a lot of stereotyping of mental health problems in theatre and in film and art in general. So for me, it's about standing up there and saying, this is my experience, and to try and show that transformation is possible.
Agus beag arán go nó Dylan Ty ar Balbeag. The Shelter of Neighbours an teidealtar ar an gnúsach gearcéalta is déanaí an scríbhneoirt Eilish ní Ghimhne. Agus leir sí go neam malbhlam le déanaí mar ar héal litirthe na tíreasa ar bhualamar le chéile le haig lón litirthe.
You never quite knew what anyone's agenda was. That was the trouble. Paul was apparently on the board because of his knowledge of books, and Simon because of his knowledge of the legal world, and Joe because he was famous. Mary, Jane and Pam were there because they were women. Mary was already on 20 boards and had had to call a halt, since her whole life was absorbed by meetings and lunches, receptions and launches. Luckily, she'd married sensibly and didn't have to work. Jane sat on 10 boards, and Pam had been nominated 2 months ago. This was her first lunch with any board ever. She was a writer. Everyone wondered what somebody like her was doing here.
Lína sa scéalsa literary lunch, Eilish, nobody was interested in a writer past the age of 30. It was all the young ones they wanted these days, and women, preferably young women with lots of shining hair and sweet, photogenic faces.
Well, sin cead na characterí sa scéile atá ag caint agus sin an dearca atá a gceisiúd. Ach sílim go mraithin tá cid an éireann i gceist freisin ar nó bíonn fáilte ag an bubble litirthe na fáilteoireachs mar sin de ribh gothanna nua an tamar fad. So orintha toscam go mraithin scríbhneoirí man éasta tá rud ag an anna thugann siad middle-age spread na rud ag mar sin maidir le litréir agus na, you know, airindína tíirseachtaid agus bíon níos mó simachá in ína nua. Tá sé sin nádúrtha go leor freisin. Mana airing go hanabá leat agus gur sais réad mórthú an sin bíon sé, you know, is féidir leis bheith deacha go leor an public áil agus just sim a spraga iad a chuid scríbhneoireachta. Is all go mín daoine a gcónaí agsúil leis an, you know, an scríbhneoir mór nua úntach genius ag an sílim go bhfuil sé sin níos láidre fiúháin i saoil na litríochta gaeilge nó mar atá sé sa bhéarla. Sin braham go mín i nGaeilge go mín siad a gcónaí ag fáilteú ribh an goth nua agus beidir nach mín go leor well bíon takeíochtáil ag, you know, Shandín agus Dina Manéis de freisin ach go mín anna bhéim ar an rud nua agus stúin tá sé simú bheith smíanamh cén fá go...
Cé mas tú chur an bhéim son? Na fáilseóirí nó
beidir na fáilseóirí na man dína cosúlibh se. Sílim sin. Is sais fum hain an scéil bhealach The Man Who Had No Story agus ní hé beidir grab an tubair tírim ach de scríb mé ag gam bhí mé bhí rang in a cuasaí á bhúna gom faoin ghearrscéil agus just de stop mé agus gúil se leom nach raibh ghearrscéil scríb gom hain le gáú trí blion agus nach raibh cad faoi a scríb mé an scéil agus tá scéil úntaach seo ann sa bhéileadas The Man Who Had No Story a thugann lucht bhéileadas séir agus is faoi fear nach bhfuil scéil aige agus just fálamíonn sé ceacht os na sióga faoi chun sa cumann tú scéil nuair nach bhíon aon scéil a go agus sílam bhfuil an cóla céalbar go leir so sin an téime tá sa scéil sin agus targaíonn sé an béileadas agus an litríoch le chéile agus mar sin de.
Tá sanolalas go ar chuirsaí béileadas mar sin de bhfuil seanna háchtach deit mar inse scéalaíochta.
Tá sílam bhfuil tá tháinig mé ar méileadas islí fao bheith ag déanamh staidir ar níhé gurrás mé sús sa gailtacht go raibh hiismór ag sin scéil nó aon rud ach mar sin de hit mé an grá leis an méileadas nuair a bhí mé im a bhac léinn agus sílam go bhfuil atá faoin sin ar litríochta sa bhéileadas sin agus tá na him a go mán mar scoláir a bheith granúir an ceangal idir an litríocht agus an méileadas ach freisin is granny mé mar fuointe feim smuointe agus sppraga má héimeisteach sa gartlan nó má smuoiníim ar scéalta sa bhéileadas tugann sé feim ideas ó fuointe sin. There's a story he heard on the radio. There used to be storytellers in the place they're staying in, the deep green valley on the edge of the ocean, but not anymore, not that Finn knows of. This was a recording of a storyteller who used to live down the road from his rented cottage in the same townland, Ballinahawa, the town by the river. The Man Who Had No Story. That was the name of the story, and that's what it's about. The man was looked down upon by the people. Everyone was expected to have at least one story they could entertain their neighbours with. Good storytellers knew a few hundred, the professor guy who was commenting on this said. But Dermot didn't even have one. He was hoping for a free night's lodging, but he couldn't sing for his supper, and it just wouldn't do. He was thrown out of the house in disgrace.
Fáilte Harneis. Well, is féidir le cuairteoirí tainmh bhainte as an ealaíon a bhíonar tá spáint i Gosláán an leas a bhór gundafort láirge. Tá beocht ar lehan le tamla nuas, agus chuig ar dúirscóir Róisín Chnéile ann chun an severas ealaíonna eiscint i Gosláán an leas a bhór.
Tá mén sahanneomh taobh mód Caisleán lis mhór, lis mór Castle Arts tugann siad ar an ionad ealaíonna tá istigh agus tá chun bula le Eamon Maxwell atá mar stúrthóir ar an áit seo. Tugann siad ealaíon idirnáisiúnta le chéile an sa taobh istigh sa gallery agus in na Gardaíní agus cumála sin tá bailúcháin buan de dealbhadórach éireannach agus idirnáisiúnta an sa le feiscinnta going.
Lismore Castle Arts opened in September 2005, so we're just celebrating our 7th birthday. So we're still little children. It was the brainchild of the Duke of Devonshire and his son Lord Burlington, who owned the castle. The gallery is situated in the west wing of the castle, which lay derelict from the early 40s right up until the start of the millennium. But the family really wanted to have something accessible to the public. The rest of the castle is a closed private family home. So it is that at the west wing, given its co-location with the garden, was the obvious place to do that. So work started in late 2003, and then the gallery opened September 2005. There's a collection here that's been built up over the past 20 years of works by Irish and international artists. So it's everyone from Eddie O'Connell to Anthony Gormley to David Nash, and then there's some more recent works by sort of younger artists like Roger Hiorns and Marie Lund and Richard Wright. We kind of hope people will come here and discover the jewels that we kind of exhibit.
Tá píosaí Alien mar seo, scapa haimpel an Gordín an píosa seo hunting le Bridget McCrum, agus tá si go háling just siúl haimpel agus tacht píosaí den nó seo, agus an siomh an átain bhfuil sé lonathe sa Gordín, agus é féchan teach a drón Caisleán agus an sépéal an son scúra. Si do creite go bhfuil gníran reintas na píosaí seo píosas créua agus iann sé chun mór den Gordín agus an siomh. Pís eile dealbhadóireacht an sa le Bridget McCrum. Tá si go háling an slíon a bhfuil na píosaí seo site go nádúrtha in san Gordín. Chun píosa eile tá déanta cén sin bunathe ar éon lethe cumá, so b'fhéidir gur amhla go raibh si déanamh sreith ibre bunathe ar an éon agus is brálam an slíon a bhfuil na scítháin go bhfuil siad sais lam agus an son go bhfuil an igacht an sa. Agus go bhfuil go léir déanta amachchas píosa bháin cloch ach go bhfuil dacht difriúil aici mar gur chuir sí snasar an píosa seo. Sé fíoráling. Seo híon spás taobh den galleríonn seo ag Lismore Castle Arts. Spás olmhór, glán agus éon teispántas cnic mé an sa istigh an sa go dtí seo. Tá cuma úntach ar an teispántas mar go bhfuil an spás seo le fáil. Agus is tólam go bhfuil maintear Portláirge go bhfuil an táló go bhfuil le héad de spás an sa I gúnta Portláirge agus is spás nua aimsire is agus teispántar na píosaí ar an slí gur heistigh ón eilíontóir iad a heispáint.
Every year we invite an artist or a curator to kind of imagine an exhibition here. Yousum is one of those artists that is not that well known in Ireland. He's such an exceptional artist that we wanted to give him his first solo show in Ireland at the age of 92.
Right.
And we were very keen that we had an exhibition that was in the gallery in a kind of formal sense, but also then spilled out through the gardens, because we want people to experience art in a kind of unexpected setting. We hope that by bringing international artists like Yousum into Lismore, people kind of get a sense of what's happening in contemporary art internationally.
An rud atá táchtach faoin gallery seo, tá spás ag na píosaí, tá siad in áú, tá siad séir agus tá túnán bheith neciló agus istiganta agus mothúcháin na píosaí a bhreith chumá. Cuireann sé áthas orm teachpatí áit sa uair a béag réméin sa bíon stiff atá díreach mar a bheicfí in London nó cathair mór a bé ar fud an domhan le feiscint an sa. Sépéilín beg a bhí an sáthair dúis, agus tá an áit seo a chuthanis istigh an leabhar an baile, agus tá sé mar siomh a thaidh eilíontóirí chun teispánta siomh a acu. Seo teispántas le Alistair McKibnon, agus Alíontóir é a bhí mar an céad Alíontóir cónathe a tháinig an Ságadtín Caisleán lismhór. Úsáid sé an bazooka seo agus bhí sé caithfh prátaí le dromta an Caisleán agus bheannach chud spríige bhréir mar is féidir le feiscintin san scanáin íon sé. Úsáid sé rointas na craing a bhí geartha síos ins na Gádaoine agus dhéon sé roint písaí dealbhadóireachta bunaithe ar an figiúr. Tháina mé héingatí lis mór nuair bhí mé óg bhíoh trosna bhíoh mar dullar tros agus is caiinm féchantar an Caisleán allmhór a brúch na haing mhóra agus is dócha go mé háid just a féchantar agus a rá ó nach bhfuil sé sin go háling bhrálam deise dul isteachán. Agus inis tá deise daoine dul teachtan sát agus féchantar an Alíon sa ar na Gádaoine agus Alíon an scoch Alíon nu aimsere nebh gnách. Ní bheith deise go an Alíonn seo dhéiscint ní ná eile.
Ba beag bhrán in Michigan an Geirnín Uairige Dylan Tai record a rán a bheith mar chud an drama den Tedal Céna tarsúil sa New Theatre. Seohann is sé le Opus. Iva.
I'll ask you again to take me away from this planet of pain. You don't know what I've suffered. You don't know what I've seen. I want to live my life knee deep in sin, cast to the pyres from my country of shame. 'Cause I want to live my life and call pain by its name. When I saw your eyes in the fire within, I knew there'd be pain through thick and thin.